While some people might write them off, purchasing players who are transfer listed in Football Manager can lead to some huge success. Just because they're unwanted by their current club doesn't mean they aren't great players who can contribute to your side. And of course, when a player is transfer listed, their value is significantly lower than what it could be. So today we'll be showing you our Dream 11 of transfer listed players. So get your notepad out, write these names down, and hopefully one of these players will do wonders for you in your save. Hello everyone, Jake here for FMSCOUT. We've got plenty of transfer listed players to get into today, a team of 11. Now these players have a variety of different prices, but I think there is the potential that these could all represent good deals depending on your circumstance. So with that being said, let's go check out player number 1 in our list. PSG's goalkeeping situation is a very strong one, with Keylor Navas and Gianluigi Donnarumma competing for that number 1 shirt. So Sergio Rico is the forgotten man. The emergency backup goalkeeper at PSG is only 28 years of age, so in goalkeeping terms, he's still got plenty of time left ahead of him, and he'll only just be creeping up into his prime years. He has some phenomenal attributes, and you're able to sign him for as low as £3.2 million, which I think is a great bargain. He was Sevilla's starting goalkeeper for a number of years, and he still has that quality in him, and I would not look past this guy if you needed a keeper for a few seasons in your save. Moving on to player 2 now. Don't forget, if you do enjoy this video, to smash the like button for us and subscribe for more. We've got daily Football Manager content on the channel, so I think it definitely would be worth hitting that subscribe button. But player number 2 is an interesting one. It is Michael Keane, a centre-back playing for Everton. Now don't get me wrong, Michael Keane isn't the highest level centre-back you could ever get, but he is a former England international and still a player who could really play at a Premier League level in Football Manager. Whether you agree on it in real life or not is a different question, but if we're talking about his attributes, he's got it all in his locker. Great aerially with some very strong tackling, available for £9.2 million. Maybe you can get him even cheaper. He's still going to play for 3 or 4 years at these attributes before he begins to decline, so it could be a time to get him if you're maybe a relegation club that needs some centre-back depth. Michael Keane would not be a bad signing. I do think 9.2 million is a little over what I'd be willing to pay personally, but of course it's all situational, and maybe you can even negotiate that fee down a little bit. Now this guy is one of my favourite bargains on the list. It's Foday Torabi, a Senegalese 25-year-old left-back playing for AC Milan, who clearly no longer see any use for this player. Just so you know, for the duration of this video, I am managing Manchester City, so ignore the star ratings because all of these players are being compared to Man City's crop, which is obviously a very talented bunch, but we're talking about a left back here who has incredible physical attributes, strong, quick, decent in the air, lots of work rate and teamwork, some nice mental attributes. He can tackle, he can mark, he can cross, he can dribble. At 25 years of age, he's still got a lot of years left to play, and he's played for some big clubs, Lille, Monaco, PSG. I mean, he didn't actually make an appearance there, but for Lille, for Monaco, and he's even played some matches for Milan. They obviously don't see a use for him anymore, but I'm sure some of you guys could certainly use this guy very well in your teams. Another centre-back that will be transfer listed in all of your saves right from the off is Yannick Vestigard of Leicester. Speaking of Leicester, on my channel, linked in the description, we do have a Leicester save going on currently, so if you'd like to check that out, I'd greatly appreciate any support over there. Now I will hold my hands up, I did sell Yannick Vestigard in that save, but looking at him purely based on his attributes and not thinking about how it's gone for him at Leicester in real life, the ex-Southampton centre-back could actually do a pretty good job for a lot of sides. Very strong, brilliant in the air, and I mean brilliant. 19 jumping reach, 6'6", and 17 heading. Now he is very slow, so you'd like to partner him up with someone quicker, but he's a phenomenal ball player, a great tackler, 35 appearances for the Danish national team. This guy has got a lot in his locker, to be fair to him, and despite some poor first touch and, as I mentioned, that slow turn of pace, I still think everything else is at a very high level. £9.4 million again might be slightly over what I'd be willing to pay, but if you can negotiate it down, the 29-year-old has got his prime years left ahead of him still, and I do still think he is good enough to be a Premier League player. One for the more elite clubs now, it's Lucas Vazquez of Real Madrid. This is a guy who has got bundles of experience at the highest level. He's been at Real Madrid Madrid for a number of years, plenty of appearances racked up for the club. He's strong all along that right flank, but can particularly play wing back well. Great physical, technical and mental attributes, very well balanced. At the age of 30, I'd say he's got 3 years or so left playing at this high level, and his wage demands are quite high, but if you can negotiate that down a little bit, get him on a smaller contract, he could be a great player for pretty much any team in the world. Italian international and Inter Milan central midfielder Roberto Gagliardini would be a great pickup in the midfield if you are looking for a strong ball winner. At the age of 28, he's in and about those prime years of his career now, but isn't really getting a look in at Inter Milan. You'd be able to pick him up for 3.5 million, about 40 grand in the wages, would not be too bad at all because he has a great personality in model professional, 6'2", with very, very strong physical attributes, great work rate, teamwork, tackling, marking. This is what I mean about overlooking players purely because they're transfer listed. He's not going to play ahead of Barella in Football Manager terms, so the game lists him, and I do still think he has that quality in him to play at the highest level for a few years yet. If you're looking for a more attacking-minded central midfielder who can drive the ball up the pitch, then maybe 25-year-old Portuguese national Bruno Costa of Porto would be a nice choice. Only £1 million to bring him to your team with pretty low wages as well. He doesn't seem to have a place at Porto anymore, and while some of his attributes are lacking, his balance, his strength, his teamwork, there's some others that are very nice. Now, nothing is too stand out, but in terms of a player that you can sign for £1 million that can play in a multitude of roles, whether that be in the attacking phase or even apparently right back, I think he'd be a very good pickup, particularly if you're looking for some squad depth. On to our final 4 players now, and it's back to Real Madrid. It's not Lucas Vazquez this time though, it is Dani Ceballos, the 25-year-old central midfielder who did go on loan to Arsenal a season or so ago, and on the odd opportunity did show the quality that he still has. He just needs to be a bit more consistent with it, and maybe a move away from Real Madrid is just what this guy needs. Based on the contract he's got at Madrid, his wage demands are going to be pretty high, and by the looks of it, with his contract expiring at the end of the first season, you might actually be able to pick him up on a free deal without paying this money. But if you really wanted to go for him early, £4.6 million would net you a technically exceptional central midfielder. Like, those technicals are very, very good. The mentals are also strong, as are the physicals. There's no real issue with Dani Ceballos, and if you're looking for a forward-thinking central midfielder, the 25-year-old Spaniard would be a fantastic choice. 25 years of age, 11 international appearances. He's got loads of years left ahead of him, and hopefully, if all goes well, he can find himself back in that Spanish national setup. Now, onto the pick that I think will be the most controversial, maybe the most dubious, but we're trying to make a team of 11 here. We needed some attacking players, and one player that is always transfer listed at the start of your saves will be Leicester's Izo Perez. Now, my big gripe with him is I think £16 million is too much for a player of this quality whose contract is expiring at the end of the season. But what I'll say to you is just keep an eye on him, because you might see that price fall if no one goes for him, and if not, you can get him on an approach to sign deal. But when I was managing Leicester myself, we did actually get his transfer listed value straight away from a Premier League side, and I think it actually was Aston Villa. So clearly the game judges this guy to have some good talent, and when you look at him, you do actually start to think, you know what? He could be half decent, and I'm going to show you why. If we focus on him as a wide player, he does look good, but maybe not £16 million good. But if we now focus on him as an advanced forward, I mean, there's not too much lacking here. Those technicals are very good. Great technique, passing, work rate, first touch finishing and dribbling all look very, very strong. On top of that, he's quick, agile, with good balance. Now, at the age of 28, he'll be getting right into his prime years now, and he has performed well on occasion for Leicester and was very good when he was back at Newcastle. In a time where Newcastle used to struggle a lot, he was usually the one player that actually looked half decent and then made that big money move to Leicester. Whilst there might be better options out there for 16 million, I do actually think if you spent it on Izo Perez, you would get your money back and probably more in terms of how he performs for you, because clearly he has the attributes to do well. If you don't agree, don't sign him, but just someone to keep an eye on and maybe see if you can pick him up for a low fee or on the approach to sign. Another player being transfer listed by a Premier League club is Bournemouth's 27-year-old Danish attacking midfielder Emiliano Martinez, who they signed a few years ago from Brentford on a free. At the age of 27, you're going to get a few years out of this player, and for only £2.7 million, he's definitely worth that investment for me, even if you were just going to sell him on My suggestion would be, if you're managing in the Championship, I say bring him back to the Championship where he did well for Brentford, and hopefully he'll do well for you guys in that division too. My final pick is Leo Bonatini of Wolves, who over the years has got worse and worse in terms of his attributes, and looking at him, look, he's not Premier League quality. You can see why Wolves are trying to sell him. But if you're managing in maybe a division outside of a top 5 in Europe, whether that's in the Championship, like I've mentioned before, or if you're managing in the Portuguese divisions, let's say, or the Dutch divisions, Leo Bonatini for £2.4 million could definitely do a good job, maybe as a backup striker, or even at a push as your main man up top. Whether it be Switzerland, Portugal, or Saudi Arabia, he always seems to find the back of the net every now and then. He's never going to be a 50-goal-a-season striker, but maybe, just maybe, you can get Leo Bonatini back to his best, and if so, he'd definitely be worth that £2.4 million. But there we go, everybody. That was 11 transfer listed players, our dream team of transfer listed players. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to smash the like button for us and subscribe for more. Let us know in the comments down below your best player that you've picked up when they've been transfer listed. Don't forget to check out my channel, linked in the description, but most of all, have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.